Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nguyen Trinh, and in short, is call me Trinh. And I'm the Vice Director of the Department of Education, Science, Natural Resources, and Environment under the Ministry of Planning and Investment of Vietnam. And I'm in charge for policy investment in environmental protection, climate change responses, and also green growth. And we are focusing on mobilizing green finance and also climate finance around domestically and also globally for investing in the infrastructure development in Vietnam. From the central level down to the provincial level. As the political partner of the Climate Services for Infrastructure Investment (CSI) project implemented by GIZ on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety as part of the International Climate Initiative (ICI). And actually, we also, as the coordinating member of the steering committee for key activities in Vietnam. So that's why I say it's very interesting role, because we can work at the technical level for the climate initiative, but we're also working very hard for how to maximize the effectiveness of the climate initiative at the policy, macro policy level. So this is my job, and also how to connect between the project level and also the policy making process in our system. As you all know, by the global research, Vietnam is one of the 5 top vulnerable countries to climate change. We have to face with a lot of difficulties to help farmers and inhabitants to respond to climate change. Among that, infrastructure such as sluice gates, dikes, road, bridges have significant role in supporting adaptation, and also important investment items to be considered by the government. So we have to, with limited budget, state budget, we have to consider the criteria for the most climate resilient infrastructure investment. So this is our role. I think the climate services is very important to our adaptation objectives because Vietnam have a very solid and systematic legal framework. We have the decision number 1055 on promulgating the National Climate Change Adaptation Plan for 2021 and 2030. And we also have other supporting decrees guiding, like the decree number 37 for planning, and also we have the law on the environment protection recently issued in 2020, and we have the decree 160 on the to implement the law on disaster prevention. So we think that we already have the very good, quite good legal framework to put it into implementation and also practices. The climate services are very important because it will provide the informative inputs for us, and it helps us to raise awareness of the communities and also authorities from all levels for them to consider all of their decisions. And availability of climate services may enable recognition and accessibility by users. Thus, they can increase the applicabilities and range of application for the people. Consideration of climate change impact in future scenarios through climate services also helps to better manage the climate risk by adaptation measures and support Vietnam in achieving adaptation objectives. So I think that Vietnam is very well known for the macro policy arrangement, but for the capacity of enforcement and also implementing at the technical level, it still have a gap. So with the climate services support from GIZ and from the CSI project, it will fill in the gap and also help to enhance the capacity of the people at the local and grassroots level for them to be aware of the what will happen to them, and also at the macro level, at the central level, the decision makers will be informed, and we will have information for better making decisions. First of all, I would like to explain what PIEVC is. The Public Infrastructure Engineering Vulnerability Committee, known as PIEVC for its acronym, and it is a step-by-step methodology for climate change risk assessment developed in Canada and used around the world. Climate risk assessment, such as the PIEVC, provides a professional judgment on the climate risk at present and in the future, during the expected life cycle of the infrastructure, and further in the identification of potential adaptation measures for both existing infrastructures and planned investment projects. By considering climate risk and adaptation measures in the planning process, the investment decisions become climate informed, and thus infrastructures become more resilient. Climate risk assessment portfolio scan can also show its advantages in supporting decision makers identify high climate risk infrastructure, thereby making decisions on prioritizing projects or requiring further climate risk assessment steps for important and highly vulnerable projects under impacts of climate change. The protocol has a high potential to be applied for climate risk assessment of infrastructure in Vietnam. And with this, I hope that in the coming time, the CSI project can mobilize further resources to help Vietnam to officialize the technical guidelines, and also it make like one important step in the helping or guiding the local authority to apply in their designing step or in the approval step for investment project of infrastructure at the local level using own resources from state budget and also from a private budget. We expectedly to be part of the construction code, so it will be mainstream easily, so everyone can use it. Vietnam already issues our national adaptation plan as a decision number 1055 that I already mentioned. And we have the task number 2 in enabling the conditions. And we are always concerned about resilience of critical infrastructures. And now we support from the Green Climate Fund via UNDP. We are working closely with the Ministry of Environment and also with other key ministries involving adaptation tasks like Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Agriculture, and also Ministry of Health, and also our Ministry of Planning Investment, that we will have to prepare a list of prioritized projects that we will have to make it like a key investment intervention for improving the adaptive capacity for different sectors and focusing on infrastructure, climate resilient infrastructure construction. So to do that, we need to not only enhance the awareness of technical people in different sectors, because not only the people involving in the environment and climate change areas, but now we also have to mobilize or involving people from the planning divisions under different ministries, and we also have to mobilize the technical departments under different ministries for them to understand the importance of a climate resilient infrastructure. That means you have to use the PIVC and also climate services information to be the very important part in input in their policy making framework, and also to help them to apply those instruments into their daily work. And that we expected to have the combination and the experience sharing between the CSI projects and also the NAP team, the Vietnamese interministerial NAP team. So we can help to build a climate resilience infrastructure prioritized projects for Vietnam. And we also try to put the climate resilience to be put in the national scheme for systematic infrastructure development in Vietnam during the period of 2021 to 2030, because we also focusing to develop our economy. We also focusing on developing infrastructure system throughout the country. And all the inputs from the CSI project already mainstream during the formulation of the national scheme. The most important tools that I always use is dialogues, and we try to have seminars and workshops. And because we are in the position coordinating the other ministry for preparation of socio-economic development strategies and socio-economic development plans for both the national level and also for both the sectoral levels and also provincial levels. So we try to introduce the concept of climate services, and wherever we can introduce or we can mainstream the ideas of climate adaptation policies into strategies. And we also try to have policy brief for the leaders, and we also not only for the policy making process activities, but we also try to think of the future planners. For example, we can connecting between the policy makers and the end users and also the researchers to maximize the uses of the to help people to understand the importance of climate adaptation policies. From that, they will see that climate adaptation policies are very important for their future, for their life, and also they will use it in their daily work. I think it is the most important and practical approach that we already done. We think that one of the most difficulty for us is how to make people understand the effectiveness and the importance of the climate adaptation policies, and to help them to work with each other and try to integrate the adaptation policies across sectors, and to help them to break the silo thinking and foster collaboration among sectors. People should understand what they will get from that in the short term and in the long term. If they feel that they can contribute to that, and they will have benefit, not only economic benefit, but also for their safety and also for their promotion or something like that, I think if they see that it is a very essential thing from their individual perspective, but also for the community perspective, then they will follow the instruction, and they will do their best for this work. So I think this is our approach to work with the people, to enhance them to understand about the climate adaptation policies and make them as part of their work and their daily life. In order to achieve the integration of climate adaptation policies, it requires common sense and joint efforts between decision makers at national levels and local implementers, between climate scientists, engineers, investors, planners, and economists, etc., on the key stakeholders